Forget kings and castles without roads. The medieval world would have ground to a halt. Long before highways and machines, roads were carved by hand, stone by stone, in back-breaking labor done by peasants, serfs, and townsfolk. These muddy tracks and crude bridges carried armies, pilgrims, and traders, yet the people who built them remain nameless. Tonight, step into the world of medieval road building where corvée duty, calloused hands, and relentless weather shaped the very map of history. If you want more stories of the forgotten work that kept the Middle Ages moving, hit like, tap, subscribe, and let boring history for sleep lead you down history's hidden paths. The world of the Middle Ages is often imagined in terms of castles and cathedrals, tournaments and royal courts, yet the silent force that knits these distant places together is found beneath the feet of every traveler, the humble medieval road. Picture, if you will, a narrow ribbon of earth winding through fields and forests, sometimes marked with stones, more often a muddy track, battered by weather and use. The story of the road is the story of laborers anonymous and uncelebrated whose hands shaped the way that armies marched, goods are traded, and distant towns are bound into a larger world. In most of Europe, the Roman roads have long since faded. Their sturdy layers of stone and gravel, so carefully engineered, have been broken by time, neglect, and the slow reclamation of nature. In their place, new routes are forged, not by imperial design but by the needs of daily life. The quickest, the path between two villages, the most reliable crossing over a river, the line of least resistance through a patch of marsh or woodland. Building and maintaining these roads is a never-ending task, governed not by grand plans but by necessity. Most of the work falls not to professional engineers but to peasants, tenants, and serfs obliged by custom, law, or feudal contract to provide labor. The village is summoned by the local lord or magistrate for the annual task known as statute, labor or corvée, 4 days or weeks each year. Fields are left untended, and men, women, and sometimes children report to the appointed spot with spades, picks, baskets, and carts. The labor is backbreaking. The ground must be cleared of brush and stones. Ditches are dug to drain away water, lest the track dissolve into an impassable quagmire at the first sign of rain. Where the soil is firm, it is simply packed down by repeated trampling, foot, hoof, and wheel. Where it is soft, branches or bundles of reeds may be laid as a base, topped by whatever gravel or broken stone can be found nearby. In marshy regions, corduroy roads of logs are sunk into the mud, a jarring ride for wagons. But better than being stranded knee-deep, work proceeds in stages. First, the outline of the route is marked, often following the track already worn by years of use. Teams clear trees, cut back hedges, and remove boulders. Drainage ditches are shaped with simple tools, their sides sloping gently to channel water away, if the lord is wealthy or the route important. Stone may be hauled from a local quarry, but for most country roads, only the worst stretches receive this treatment. The tools are basic: spades with wooden shafts, iron shod where possible, picks for breaking up hard ground, baskets for carrying earth and stone. There are no machines to speed the work, just the effort of many hands. Injuries are common: a turned ankle in the mud, a hand caught beneath a heavy stone, a back strained from endless digging. The overseer, often a steward or bailiff, paces up and down, urging the laborers on and inspecting the work for faults. Food is plain and eaten quickly: bread and cheese, maybe an onion or a hard-boiled egg, with a mug of ale or thin beer. Rest is taken in snatches, under the uncertain shelter of a tree or beside a pile of earth. The laborers share grumbled complaints and weary jokes, or exchange news about the harvest, local disputes, or rumors from the manor house. Progress is slow, and the results are rarely celebrated. When the work is done, the laborers return to their fields, their hands rougher, their backs sorer, and their contribution largely forgotten, except, perhaps, when the next rain turns the road to mud and all must return to repair the damage. What motivates this endless work? How do the customs and laws of medieval society enforce or encourage the building of roads? And what happens when roads fail, when bridges collapse, tracks are abandoned, or communities fall into isolation? In a world defined by movement and distance, what is the true cost and quiet heroism of those who labor unseen to bind one village to another? The work of road building in the medieval world is never truly finished. Each season brings fresh damage and fresh obligations, and the burden falls most heavily on the broad backs of the common people. In villages across Europe, the rhythm of daily life is interrupted, sometimes unpredictably, by the need to repair or remake the roads that tie them to the wider world. The laws and customs that require this labor vary from place to place. In some regions, corvée service is embedded in the obligations of the serf or tenant. The lord of the manor may summon all able-bodied villagers for a set number of days each year, often at the worst possible moment, when fields cry out for plowing or harvest must be gathered. Absence from this work carries penalties: a fine, loss of a portion of one's crop, or, for repeat offenders, harsher punishment. Even freemen or townsfolk might be required to contribute labor or provide carts and tools. Some communities try to manage the burden more equitably. In towns, guilds and merchant associations may take responsibility for maintaining the stretches of road nearest their markets or gates. Wealthy landowners sometimes pay others to fulfill their share of the work. In rare cases, a particularly prosperous region may employ full-time roadmen, but these are exceptions, not the rule. For most, the duty falls when it falls, and complaints, though many, do little to change the reality. Weather remains the great enemy. A heavy rain can undo weeks of work in a single night, washing away the surface, flooding ditches, or collapsing a bridge. Frost heaves and cracks the earth. Summer drought turns dirt to dust, ground to ruts. Roads laid over clay become slippery and treacherous, while those in marshy areas simply disappear beneath the water. Laborers trudge back out, year after year, patching the worst sections, piling more stone, or, in desperation, rerouting the path around a particularly stubborn patch of mud. Bridges are a special concern. Crossing even a small stream requires ingenuity and effort. Simple plank bridges, stone fords, or log causeways are common, but each has a limited lifespan. The building of a permanent bridgestone or arched timber is a rare communal achievement, sometimes commemorated with a carved marker or a blessing from the local priest. When such a bridge collapses, all suffer. Travelers are stranded, trade halts, and villages can become isolated for weeks or months. The maintenance of roads shapes the life of the village in other ways, too. On roadwork days, old feuds and alliances flare up. Neighbors grumble over the distribution of tasks or accuse one another of shirking. Sometimes disputes end in laughter. Other times they are brought before the manorial court. Shared hardship forges bonds, but it can also strain tempers, especially when the labor is relentless and the reward invisible. Despite this, the roads endure, sometimes barely, sometimes robustly. They are the lifelines of commerce, faith, and governance. Merchants use them to carry wares to distant markets. Peasants bring their produce to the weekly fair. Royal officials and churchmen travel them to administer law or offer sacraments. Pilgrims walk the same paths, adding prayers to each mile. Even armies, when they pass so, their advance to the humble work of the laborers who leveled the mud and cleared the stones. But what happens when a road is neglected? How does the fate of a community change when travel becomes too difficult, or when a once busy track falls out of use? As you listen to the quiet persistence of those at work, spade after spade, stone after stone, you may wonder, how do forgotten roads shape the map of history, and what stories vanish along with them, lost beneath grass and silence? With each passing year, the work of medieval road building goes on, but so does the quiet erosion of what's been accomplished. As new roots are worn into the earth and old tracks are forgotten, the landscape itself becomes a kind of living map lined with history, hope, and loss. Some roads, carefully maintained and often traveled, become arteries of commerce, faith, and connection. Others, neglected or rendered obsolete, fade slowly beneath the relentless press of grass, brambles, and time. The fate of a road is never certain. When trade dwindles, a village declines, or political borders shift, a once important track can be abandoned almost overnight. At first it is merely rougher underfoot, a section of broken stones, a bridge that sags into the stream. Travelers find detours, weeds reclaim the shoulders. Over a few seasons, trees begin to seed themselves in the ruts, and the path is reduced to a faint depression of memory, visible only to those who know what to look for. Yet some roads endure, kept alive by necessity or reverence. Pilgrim routes to holy shrines are patched and rebuilt, even if it means days of labor for local villagers. Roads that link market towns are stubbornly tended, for the prosperity of an entire region may hang on the ability to bring goods to market. The king's highways, as decreed by royal edict, sometimes benefit from extra attention, though even these can fall into disrepair when funds or willpower run short. Archaeologists of later centuries will sometimes discover the ghost of a medieval road, a line of oddly placed stones, a double row of ancient trees, or the remains of a bridge hidden beneath layers of soil. In some cases, these forgotten paths reveal clues about vanished settlements, lost markets, or changes in the flow of trade. A road that once carried armies or pilgrims may vanish from the surface, but it remains present in the shape of the land, the records of tolls, or the ruins that stand as mute testimony to movement long ago. For the laborers who built and repaired these roads, the rewards are few. Their names are rarely recorded, yet their work lingers in the ease with which a wagon crosses a muddy stretch, in the safe return of a traveler at dusk, or in the bustling crowds of a busy market day. Even as the world changes, new modes of travel, new centers of power, the basic patterns endure. Someone, somewhere, must keep the roads open, the bridges safe, the connections alive. Road building in the Middle Ages was rarely celebrated, but it shaped the destiny of entire regions. The work was often dull, difficult, and unending. Still, in its persistence, there is a quiet heroism, a testament to the endurance of those whose labors, though largely invisible, knit together the fabric of medieval life. So as you drift toward sleep, imagine the faint line of a road winding off into the distance, bordered by wildflowers and ancient trees. Picture the distant figures, spade in hand, shoulders bowed whose daily toil kept a village, a market, or a kingdom from isolation. The road endures in part because of them, and perhaps in every path you travel. There is a silent echo of their footsteps, a gentle reminder that even the most ordinary efforts can shape the world in lasting, if almost forgotten, ways.